Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Miriam Talks About Things. And wow, I just realized it's the 20th episode, which could not be more fitting, because today we are going to talk about the Diviner series by Libba Bray. I'm still quite emotional because I just finished reading The King of Crows, which is the final book in this series. And I'm still definitely emotional. But I wanted to talk to you about this series because I've been binge reading it for the last couple of weeks. This discussion will be spoiler free, so you can go on without having to worry about any spoilers, because I definitely want to encourage you to pick up the series. I can already say that. But yes, I've been reading this series for the last couple of weeks, and I guess I want to go through the books and the series in general and just share my thoughts with you and hopefully make you want to pick it up for yourself. So, the basic premise of this is that we start in 1926 in New York City, where Evie O'Neill has just been basically shipped off by her parents from her hometown of Zenith, Ohio, because she got in some sort of trouble there. She gets to live with her uncle, Uncle Will, and he owns a museum all about the occult and the supernatural. And soon enough, Evie and our other main characters are getting involved with that supernatural, and they are definitely going to be involved in ways that they at first were not predicted, and we are getting an unlikely group together because of that, and because of something very dark and evil threatening the world. So the first book basically follows that storyline of Evie arriving in New York City. We also follow other people and our other characters in there, and we also follow the storyline of some serial killer being on the loose in New York City, and maybe the so-called diviners are going to get involved in that particular murder person, I guess. But yes, I gave this one 5 stars, and I think that it was one of the most well-crafted books, and I can say that for the series in general, that I've read in a long time, if not ever. And I feel like there has been set up so much to uncover in this book, but it was never overwhelming or confusing, at least to me. And I think everything that was done exactly perfectly for the story and for like the perspectives in this story and what it is telling. From the very first moment of introducing new characters, they were so well drawn and well portrayed. All of them are flawed in some way, but they are so human in their flaws, and that message of that the greatest evil is among your fellow men was just so well told in this one. The storyline in general was very intricate, very detailed, but it really made sense, and it seemed logical within that world, and how somehow we already could see connections of the characters and how they were introduced was great. And what I loved generally about the series throughout all books was that it did feel like it was part of something bigger, which it was clearly, but it also felt whole and complete as its own, and the story worked on its own very, very well, as well as the other books. And I love that somehow every book had its special focus, while again playing into the bigger picture as well. Again, it was just very carefully put together, and you can already see how well Libba Bray crafted those books. So yes, then I read Lair of Dreams, which is book 2. I gave this a very strong 4.5 stars. It was almost a 5-star, but not fully, and it was just only a small reason. I found that things could have moved a bit faster, and certain scenes could have been a little shorter, but it was perfect on its own still. Again, just very well crafted. Especially I loved the ending and how it all came together, and how that set up the plot for book 3. I can't really say much about the plot of this book, but we get sort of introduced to a new character and adding their storyline to it, and also the storyline of this sleeping sickness taking over and spreading over New York City, with in the background always lurking the man in the stovepipe hat. So that's basically all I can say about the story. And the addition of that sleeping sickness, reading it in 2020 and reading it in February in 2020, and reading the consequences it had for the people involved, was heartbreaking, because it still rang so true, and it was almost terrifying, and again absolutely heartbreaking and sad to see how little we learned from our actions. And I think that's a general thing about those books, because I don't think this is a spoiler, because we all know how history goes, and no matter how this series is going to end, we know how history is going to continue, and it's just heartbreaking to read this story and to see how little we learned from that, especially seeing that in the last couple of days, and it's just broke my heart a lot. But on the book, the writing again once more was just gorgeous. I think Libba Bray has a true gift for writing such atmospheric books that will, ironically enough, haunt you forever in their writing and what they are telling you, and just how it is written, and the dynamics she pulled off again, especially with the characters of Henry and Ling, but also Sam and Evie's relationship, but also seeing the struggles of those diviners and their abilities, and seeing them struggle with it was an incredibly nice touch. Then on to book 3, which is my favorite in this series. Before the Devil Breaks You, I give it 5+ stars. And very fitting to its title. It truly broke me. And I really can say from page 1, it had me gripped and glued to every page. And I think not a single storyline within it, not a single page ever bored me. It broke my heart a whole lot, especially with the ending. But what really grabbed me in this one was again how strong her messages were. Especially again nowadays, and looking at the state of our world, it broke me, but it also somehow gave me a spark of hope. Like, the message was very clear, that history is written by the winners, and that some voices are forgotten and lost, which was just perfectly drawn with the ghosts in this book. But there's still hope, and there's hope in those small actions of rebellion, of kindness and togetherness, and all of those things together. And that we need to take responsibility for our past, and sadly enough also for our present actions that stem from hate and fear and trying something in the name of something great that was actually never great to start with. And the fact that she so clearly put that message out, that those stories of those lost voices need to be told and they cannot be forgotten, and it just got me, and it will continue to get me, and I will reread this series forever for that reason. So I was very, not scared, but I was curious to find out what book 4 had in store for us and how it all ended up in The King of Crows, which is book 4 in the series. And again, it's all very fresh. I just finished it and I feel slightly overwhelmed, but I gave it 5 stars. I think personally, I can see some people not liking certain storylines, or maybe feeling like it was a bit off in pacing. I can see that, but to me perfectly, to me personally, I'm still totally wrapped up in my emotions. This ending was perfect. How Libba Bray wrapped it up in the end just felt right in every aspect for me. Not that it didn't break me completely. Certain storylines really just got to me, and it was hard to read them, but it was necessary for the story and for the conclusion. And again, just the dynamics and how they got mixed up in this book, and how we see new journeys and new dynamics between new people, was just so interesting to read. And I love that I can see that the pacing might be a bit off for people, but I love that we got that slowness of the journey, because it really allowed the characters to reflect on themselves, and I absolutely adored that. I adored how self-aware all of them were, just in so many different aspects, and how so much got uncovered there, and their relationships with each other, and how they judge certain aspects of each other, and how they see people, and how you constantly make up your own story. The addition of the Voice of Tomorrow storyline was incredible, and just for that, the series is worth picking up. And I also really love that we got a band and a circus storyline, but that's just because I really love circus and band storylines. And something I can say about the series as a whole is just how she always calls back to like previous chapters, but also previous books, and not just like in foreshadowing, but recalling what has been said in previous chapters, previous books, and how it all is weaved together while still being able to stand on its own is such an incredible thing for me to see. written, and the fact that she also managed to keep up throughout all this danger and sadness, the humor, that was present throughout the whole series, was just incredible. And again, as I mentioned before, we all know how history goes, and how she wrapped that up and hinted at that at the very ending was incredible, and I don't have any words for that. I do wonder what the very end means for possibly having future books. So if you have read The King of Crows, do let me know what you think of that ending, and if you think we are going to get some future stories involving the diviners, because their stories as diviners did wrap up in this one, but it felt like, and it was definitely hinted at, that there is more, and there is definitely more history to be told. So yeah, again, if you have read the series, please let me know. I need someone to talk about. But if you haven't, this is incredible. What Libba Bray does, and what she does with our history and our past, our collective past as humans, as a society, not just an American, primarily I'm an American, I guess, but it would be wrong to say that not all of us in this world have a history and have a past that we need to remember, and we need to make sure that the voices of those people who are no longer able to tell their story on their own are still heard, and that we make sure that the people who are trying to tell their stories today, that we make them heard. And it's just incredible. And if you want to be heartbroken and sad about humanity, but if you also want that glimpse of hope, please pick up the series. It's fantastic, and if you do, please let me know so we can talk about it. And I cannot wait to reread the series in the future, and maybe hope for a little more with these characters. I absolutely adored it, and it was the best decision ever to binge read the series. And I still think that's my favorite way of reading series and consuming series. Although I don't really know what to do with myself anymore. I do have another read picked up. I need something light and fluffy, hopefully, because I just don't really know what to do with myself at this moment. But it's a consolation that I'm always able to go back to these books and the story. And yeah, if you haven't picked it up, please do. That's it, basically, and I will see you or talk to you in the next episode, whenever that will be. But today I just wanted to dedicate one episode to the diviners, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.